feel like the pendulum swung so far into us being in this really masculine way of being where we were taking charge and filling the room with our voices and making sure that we had our power stance on and all of these things that just don't fit for a lot of us. And it's so
Yeah.
exhausting to be in that energy. And there's a place for that power. But this feminine frequency is a different kind of power. To me, it's much more powerful because it's much more truthful to who I actually am. It's
Mm.
this super flowy, um, connected to source, connected to my soul, creative power that just flows through me, and it's never ending. It doesn't exhaust me. It's just this very natural, completely infinite spring of power. And it feels
Mm.
so good. And it's coming back to this sacred union, this place where we have both feminine and masculine, and we are that within.
Unleash the untapped potential within you as we dive fearlessly into the realms of healing, personal growth, self-love, and uncharted territories of the human experience. Join us as we navigate relationships, conquer career and business milestones, and explore the depths of spirituality. This isn't just a podcast, it's a manifesto for the resilient, the ambitious, the soul-searching women and men of today. Grab your coffee and let's dive in with Beyond the Surface. Welcome back to another episode here on Beyond the Surface. And today I am joined by a new beautiful friend that we are meeting for the first time, which is just so fun. Colleen and Maier, I am so grateful to have connected. You are such a vibe. I said that to you before, but I'm saying it again. You are such a vibe, and I feel like everyone is going to feel that from hearing our conversation. They're gonna feel your soul. So thank you for joining me, for coming into conversation with a complete stranger. I appreciate it.
I can't wait for what's going to unfold. I feel it all bubbling.
Me too. Me too. So I know that you are a feminine frequency mentor, and probably even when people hear that, they're kind of like, huh? And I know you're also a speaker and an author. Manny Jen doing the things. But
Doing
I'd
all
love
the
for you to
things.
just share more about who you are. And I know that's sometimes I always say it's a loaded question, but it's, whatever feels true to you.
Yeah, so as a Manny Jen, definitely a loaded question. I feel like we could just spend a half an hour with me trying to describe who I am because I have all the things. Other Manny Jens, you know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, I am. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I am a mentor to women, and my work in the last couple of years has really gotten deep into lineage work and the truth of why we came here and rewriting this story of womanhood. I feel this deep passion on my heart about helping women really find their purpose and understand the things that have held us back, really understanding the sisterhood wounding, the witch wounding, the stories of our grandmothers and our great grandmothers that are coded into our blood and our bones. And it's our turn to rewrite that story. It's our time to recode that energy, and we get to do it differently so that our daughters and their daughters and their daughters have a different story. They have a different starting point than what we were given. And I truly believe that we are the women that our lineage has been waiting for. This time in history is so powerful and so potent, and there's an opportunity here that our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers haven't had. We have something new here. It's huge and it's massive, and I love the ripple. I keep saying we're the ripple that becomes the wave that turns into a tidal wave. Like we're really changing things. It's so powerful.
I have full body chills already just from hearing that. I've always thought about how what we do and the work that we do is a ripple effect. But I've never thought of the wave and everything that comes afterwards. And that really is such a beautiful visual in my brain that I never thought of.
Yeah, and I think what the deeper you get into the work, the more you realize that there are women on the planet who don't have the freedom that we have. There are women on the planet who still aren't able to gather and have these conversations. And there's something really powerful about women coming together and having these conversations in circle and in sisterhood and doing this work. Our energy amplifies by each other. And so when we sit in circle with other women, that's how we're quantum leaping. We're moving really quickly because we're having conversation, we're recoding our energy, we're doing it together, and it just amplifies and amplifies and amplifies and amplifies. And there are women on the planet who can't gather still, who don't have the freedoms that we have. And so I know with certainty that when we do this work, of course, it's to heal the women behind me who have had to really, I'm hesitating not to say the word suffer, but they really had a struggle, and to give the opportunity to the women who come after me. But it's really everywhere. It's forward and backward. It's for the women who can't do this yet. We are so energetically connected that when I do this work for me and my daughters and her daughters, I'm changing the game for every woman.
Yeah. I feel that so deeply. I'm really like sinking into that. That is so valid and so true, that there are lots of women who can't sit in circle, and yet we're so connected. And I think as women, we forget how powerful we are. And I also feel that that is also because of history. If we really look back, like years and years back, there is so much of what our ancestors were doing that were stripped away, I guess, in for lack of better words, because of fear, because of the fear and the power that we as women hold. And I feel like as women, it's as women who are doing the work and creating the space to gather, we then create the opportunity for more women to remember to remember their
Yes.
power.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. And the truth is, this energy, we carry it with us.
Yeah.
When I first thought about the fact that I was in my mother's womb, when my mother was in my grandmother's womb, I was like, whoa, there's no denying. This literally lives in my blood and my bones. This is the story that I was born into, that every woman was born into. And the truth is, women were not allowed to have this sixth sense, this intuition, this innate ability, this co-creative power that we hold. We were literally killed for it. And
Yeah.
this is where the sisterhood problem maybe began, right? That in order to save myself, if I had to sell out my sister, I would do it because I was saving myself. It was literally survival. These issues that women have in sisterhood, this wounding that we have that is so deep, it's real because of history. For so many years, women weren't able to own or earn. We only could survive by being selected by a man. Right? If we had to win the man's favor, we had to be the shiniest object. And in order for me to be the shiniest object so that I could survive, that meant that I had to outshine every other woman. And it was survival. Of course I was going to do that. So all of this like competition, and why do women do this to each other? Because history told us we had to. It was a means of our survival. This is what we had to live. And so this generation where women are able to own and earn and live on our own, I think it was 1974 or 5 where women were first allowed to have a credit card without a man's signature. That doesn't feel that long
Wild.
ago to me. It's
No.
wild. That was just a moment ago. We were so dependent on men just a moment ago. So it's this truly, when I say we have an opportunity that women have never had before, I really mean it. We have an opportunity that women have never had before to do womanhood differently, to heal these wounds, to tell the truth about women gathering together and how powerful we are when we do, and how it's safe for us to do that. It's safe for us to gather together. There is no competition. There is so much work for us to do as women. And I used to feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. Like this is such a responsibility. And now I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, oh my gosh, I get to do this. This is my responsibility. I'm the woman. You're the woman. We're the women who women are going to talk about for generations and generations, that we changed the story, because
Yeah.
history won't change, but the emotion around history will change. The energy around history change. Our mother's stories and our grandmother's stories and our great grandmother's stories, the history of it won't change, but the way it feels in our bodies will totally change.
Absolutely. I have two things that are coming up. One is around the responsibility piece and how
Mhm.
it can feel like that. And I felt that even too as like doing the work and being in the space where I am in my own current lineage and knowing that I'm really wanting and desiring to do that work, it can feel like a lot. And sometimes we have those human moments where we're just like, "Ugh, I don't want to I
Yeah.
don't want to go first in this
Oh,
moment right
sure.
now."
Hmm.
It's like we're like, "Oh, it would be so great if someone could go first for a change." Um but what was
Yeah.
coming through about this responsibility piece, I guess is kind of like a aha, is that as we shift away from everything that you were saying, and as we start to rewrite this story around like almost like outshining and like over like yeah, like outshining the other person, and that just that energy of competition,
Hmm.
as we shift away from that, we also can look at it from the angle of I don't have to do this by myself. When we lean into the energy of collaboration,
Yes.
I don't have to host, for example, I don't have to host a circle by myself. I can bring in another woman, and now there's two of us, right? And the responsibility doesn't just fall on one person. I guess that's like this little aha moment that I'm having right now, is that piece, is that we also get to do this together if we choose to. But it's a
Yes.
matter of moving away from this story, this pattern of we have to outshine each other, we have to
Yes.
compete against each other. And I guess what the question that was coming through as well is, with you and the work that you're doing, where do we begin with, I
Mm.
know that's so loaded. I know that's so loaded, but in almost like if there's a tangible piece to that, if you could
Mm.
put some tangible piece on where do we begin with, we don't have to compete, because I also think it's more than just like reminding ourselves and saying that to ourselves, I don't have to compete with this person, but we can
Mhm.
feel it so real,
Yes.
where, you know what I mean? Like, especially with quote unquote
Absolutely.
social media, we see it,
Yes.
we're like, oh, like, you feel that
Yeah.
energy. And so that's the human part of it too.
Of course. And I think it really does start with us being responsible for ourselves and
Mm,
looking to our leadership to just be someone to walk beside. I always say, first of all, it's shoulder to shoulder, it's hand in hand, it's heart to heart. I don't want anybody to put me on a pedestal. Please don't do that, because then the next thing that happens is you have to knock me off, or I make a mistake somewhere, and I will, because I'm a human. Somewhere along the way I may let you down, or you'll feel unseen, or whatever may happen, and then you're going to knock me off that pedestal. I'm going to fall off. I don't want to be on a
mm,
pedestal. And I think it starts with our responsibility of looking to our mentors, looking to our coaches, looking to the women that we listen to, looking to the podcast hosts, and realizing that they're not our competition. They're just meant to awaken something within us. There's no one to follow here. I've been a mentor for so many women, and I say all the time, please don't follow me. Please let my wisdom awaken yours so that you can forge your own trail.
mm,
That's truly what I think is happening here. For years, women had to follow a path, and we're in a place where there's no path anymore. We're like these pioneers out here. We're all just forging our own trail. So my job as a mentor, your job as a podcast host, anybody who's leading women, author, speaker, whatever you're doing, your job is not to have people follow you, but to awaken someone else's wisdom, to light a spark in
mhm.
them that they say, oh my gosh, there's something in here I've never about before, and let them go deep in themselves so they can figure out what their purpose is here. Truly, we're all just walking side by side on our own path.
And I think the language too, what I'm thinking about is how, for honestly the last decade, I have very much resisted the word coach.
Mm.
And I feel like the truth, at least what feels true right now, is because of that energy that it gives off. And I ultimately, it's what we give meaning to things, but mentor and guide really to me represents that shoulder to shoulder that you were mentioning.
Yeah.
And so even just like the language that we use and that we refer to can like really does make all the difference in how we just see each other and work with each other. Because coach has feels like it has that energy around, just like, listen to me, like I'm the coach, I'm gonna tell you how to do it, right?
Right.
If you think about
Right.
random, thinking about football, I know the Super Bowl just happened, but
Right.
that's what I'm thinking about.
I mean, it's so funny that you bring this up. It's of course perfect and so divinely connected. I struggle so much with the title. I had for years mentors, women in my circles, women who were my sisters walking beside me on different journeys say to me, "Wow, you're such a healer." And I was like, "Oh, I don't like that term.
Mm,
Please don't call me that because it implies that I'm doing something to heal someone else." Never. I do a lot of energy work, but I'm not a healer. I'm just leading you to your own healing. I'm leading you to awaken something within you that you can recode it yourself. I'm not recoding your energy. You're recoding your energy. You're rewriting your story. I'm not doing that for you. So whatever the work is, whether it's energetics or personal development or women's empowerment, it doesn't matter. The job of the whoever we are, the guide, the mentor, woman, the woman, our
yeah,
job is just to lead women to lead themselves. Like that's it.
yeah.
We're leading women to become their own leader. I'm leading women back to their own intuition so they can trust themselves, because truly, who could know better than you? Like the idea that we would even ask someone outside of ourselves, when you stop and think about it, so preposterous. How could anyone tell me how to live Colleen and Maier's life? I'm the one who's here. I'm the one who came here. This is my journey. But I have, of course,
Mhm.
like every other person, looked outside of myself because that's what we're taught. Look outside of
Mm,
yourself. Ask the teacher, ask an expert, go to the doctor. I'm not saying don't go to the doctor, and I'm not saying don't improve your skills, but the truth is, for your journey, only you could know the path that's right for you. We have to come back
mhm,
to a space where women can actually trust themselves and make decisions for themselves. And it's all tied again to this money. It's this womb wisdom. To me, it's all tied up
mm,
together, where women didn't have sovereignty, right? We didn't have sexual sovereignty. We didn't have financial sovereignty. We weren't in charge of anything in our lives. So we're coming back into the space where we get to be sovereign beings. And then we're back to that responsibility again, right? It's this massive responsibility, but we get to do it together.
mm, mm. So much, so much. I'm just thinking about how it really does. It comes back to that history and those years of essentially, in a way, like, for, blatant terms, it's like asking for permission, right? Like we've had to ask for permission. We've had to depend on a man. And so it's also this learning, this, you talk about recoding, and this learning as well of coming back to our own innate intuition. And truthfully, I think the more that we could remind each other to actually, yes, offer the guidance and the wisdom, and also prompt whoever it is that we are leading and with in our containers, and prompt and remind to say, I want you to go within, and I want you to sit with yourself, and I want you to actually ask yourself if this feels good. And it's
Yes.
those types of questions that allow us to remember and to trust ourselves, to come back to our own intuition, to hear ourselves, to hear our own internal GPS system, because we all have it.
Exactly.
We
Yes,
all have it.
exactly. And for so many years, we turned it off. And now we get to turn it
Mm-hmm.
back on. I always call it a sacred invitation when
Mm,
something really potent and powerful is coming through. And I am a totally intuitive channel. So things come through. I mean, I have clients right now. There's so many things that are being trademarked. And we've had, I mean, it's just a massive portal when we work together. And the truth is, I always say it as a sacred invitation, an invitation to look at it a different way. Go deep within yourself. Exactly what you're saying. Ask yourself, check in with yourself. I don't know. I'm just seeing it this way. I feel so often like real mentorship, the work that we're doing in the world, these containers, it's just holding up a mirror. It's a very sacred mirror for you to see yourself like the way I see you, just completely wide open, no makeup, no masks, like just seeing the truth of who you really are. That's all I'm really doing. I'm holding up a sacred mirror for you to see yourself. And it's so magnificent to see women really see themselves. And there's this other piece of this puzzle when we talk about, feminine energetics and coming back into sovereignty. You said something before, and I was like, wow. The other piece of this is why I work with feminine frequency. As we've figured out how to become independent beings and not have to depend on someone else, not have to depend on a man, and start to be able to come back to trusting ourselves and making our own decisions. And I feel like the pendulum swung so far into us being in this really masculine way of being, where we were taking charge and filling the room with our voices and making sure that we had our power stance on, and all of these things that just don't fit for a lot of us. And it's so exhausting to be in that energy. And there's a place for that power. But this feminine frequency is a different kind of power. To me, it's much more powerful because it's much more truthful to who I actually am. It's this super flowy, connected to source, connected to my soul, creative power that just flows through me. And it's never ending. It doesn't exhaust me. It's just this very natural, completely infinite spring of power. And it feels so good. And it's coming back to this sacred union, this place where we have both feminine and masculine, and we are that within. And it's magical when we figure that out.
Yeah. What comes through as I'm hearing you say, and it's so talk about you being a channel. I was literally thinking about the mirror aspect early before when you were talking about how when we were talking about guides and mentors, and that's exactly what it is. We are mirrors. When we see something, when we're activated in somebody else's energy and it resonates, and we all know that feeling when something just pierces our soul in a way.
Yeah,
That is this mirror that's showing you that you actually have that within yourself. When you're like,
exactly.
wow, this work, I love this work and I feel like I can do this work. That it exists within you. It
Yes.
exists within you. So I
Yes.
love that you brought back that piece around us being a mirror, because that's everything
Mhm.
that we are. And then what I'm thinking about as well is this, you talked about the swinging, because I 100% feel like this is exactly what's happened. And I feel like in a way, because as women we were denied of so much, and we really didn't have those capabilities of, it's almost like, I guess in a way, like we weren't allowed to be our divine feminine, and then we also really couldn't be masculine and be the, taking care of ourselves. And it was like we were just relying on this man in a sense, and we had to swing so that we could actually experience what it was and what it meant to be masculine,
Yes.
and then being able to kind of bring this harmony between the two. But I've
Mm.
also seen kind of this full swing to masculine and also this full swing right back to feminine. And then
Yeah.
it's like, hold on a sec. We're kind of missing the
Yeah.
point of needing both harmony. And so the question I have for you, and you feeling like you can be this flow and be in your feminine, do you feel like there's aspects of the masculine that supports you and allows you to be in your divine feminine?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
And
I
if so,
feel
what
like
are they?
yeah, I feel like the feminine energy is like helium in a balloon, right? It's just this beautiful, completely flowing. If it doesn't have a balloon around it, if you pop that masculine structure of the actual balloon, the helium's gone. Like it's just spilled all over. It's out. It's in the,
Mhm.
there's no power in that because it's so far spread out. The masculine structure has to kind of contain that feminine energy. And so that there are constraints that we put in our life. There's structure that we build into things, that's that masculine piece that holds us up. As a business person, you need to have structure in your business. You can't just be in flow and just, I'm going to do this today and I'm going to do that tomorrow. And you're a Manny Gen too, right? So we have a million different ideas, and I could be running on a different tangent every day and drop something and go. I can't do that. I have to have some kind of structure. There's a timeline, there are
Mm.
deadlines, there are real parameters that I have to play in order to keep myself strong. Because the truth is, without that masculine structure, women who have swung so far in their feminine, they usually wind up in a different kind of burnout than the masculine, right? So if you're all the way in the masculine, it's not our natural state to be in that all the time. So women often
Yes.
burn out. It's that hustle, it's that go, go, go. It's that not working with our cycle. It's just moving all the time like a man does. Man is on a different, very, very different cycle. Their bodies are completely different than ours. So that doesn't work for us at some point. But swinging all the way back to the feminine side, it's a different kind of burnout. It's like, oh, nothing's working. I'm just over here doing my thing. And I feel like nothing's working. I don't see anything happening, but things are happening. But because there's no structure, we have to have both. I call it sacred union. It's this beautiful coming together of all of the parts. It's self and soul. It's human and divine. Human and divine. It's masculine and feminine. It's right and left. I mean, it's the way nature is. It's night and day. It's the sun and the moon. It's everywhere is this sacred union. And we are meant to be a sacred union. And truthfully, when we come back into the space where we have both, and it's not always exactly half. It's like this dance. We're dancing between, I'm a little more in my masculine energy, then I'm a little more in my feminine energy. I'm just kind of going back and forth. And you get to a space where it feels really good. And you're just in this beautiful dancing flow. And that sacred piece, that energy of dancing and sacred union, it's truly mirrored in all of our relationships. I've been married. I don't even want to tell you how long because I'm going to sound like I'm 107, but I've been married. This July is 28 years. I've been with my husband for 30 years. And
that's
it's
so exciting.
amazing. Like I just get love. Love is so easy for me. I come from love. My parents had a beautiful marriage. My grandparents had a beautiful marriage. It's just so natural for me to have this beautiful love. It's this divine, romantic, amazing relationship. And I adore him. And we've had to learn in all of these years, there's been a lot of growing up. There's been a lot of changing. We've had to learn how to dance together because he's a masculine and feminine and I'm a masculine and feminine. Then you've got both of them dancing together. But when you become a sacred union within, it's so much easier to see that outside of yourself. Then all of your relationships can be a sacred union because you understand what that is. When you are the masculine and the feminine inside and there's that beautiful flowing together, you have it outside also.
I love that so much. What does that look like in relationships and seeing that in relationships?
That sacred union piece, like a
Yeah.
partnership. Oh man,
Yeah.
is it juicy? It is ever changing. I actually have a client who I I just was on call with her. That I had a big beautiful call before this interview together, and she is in a younger stage of her partnership, and I was very fortunate to meet her partner. Just happened to be co-facilitating at a retreat that she was hosting, and her partner was there. And I have this radar. I think it's because I love love so much that I met him and I was like, oh, this is him. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, no, 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 this is the guy. Like, this is for real, the one. And she was like, I think it might be, but it's really early. I was like, oh no, it's already a done deal. I could totally feel it.
Oh.
And it really is. They're this beautiful sacred partnership. And she's been asking me questions as they navigate their way. And this came up and that came up. And the truest thing that I could tell you is it's the same thing within. It's having this really beautiful, open communication with your partner, just like you do with yourself. The deeper you know yourself, the deeper you can be vulnerable with your partner and show your partner who you really are. This comes back to that wounding conversation we were having about not being sovereign in our partnership. We needed our husbands. We needed to have a man who had money. We needed that relationship. And so we had to become whatever we had to be in order to land the man and then stay in the marriage, right? We had to do whatever it was. We were chameleons. We had no other choice. We had to morph ourselves to fit into the box that he desired us to fit in. And so coming back to being the truth of who we really are and being willing to be vulnerable and share with our partner, this is what I deeply desire. I want to feel powerful. I want to run my own business. I want to run it. I want to be in charge, but I also need to feel taken care of. I also need a soft place to land. I also want you to love me and make me feel like I am this divine queen priority. And it's a lot for our partners to figure out what that fine line is. Like, here's my wife and she's in charge of everything, and hot damn, she holds it down. But also, she wants me to bring her flowers and like run her bath and make her feel amazing and tell her how gorgeous she is. And it's this beautiful, rich, required communication.
Mm. And this is where that piece around truth comes in, because it's a matter of the truth with ourselves is such a big piece. And then truth in not just our romantic relationships, but all relationships
Yes.
require truth with
Yes.
our parents. And that
Yes.
is a whole like unraveling too, because there is also not necessarily that we may put our parents on a pedestal, but there is none of that either. When we
Right.
truly can see our parents, our older siblings, whatever that looks like we are all human. We
Yeah.
are all human. And when we can see each other as human beings, we acknowledge each other differently.
Yes.
And it creates such a beautiful invitation. And that was the thing that was really coming through as you were sharing like this beautiful union and what that really looks like in partnership. It also, if you're in a relationship and a partnership with a man who holds a lot of masculine energy and is really, because they have their own wounding as well, like they, you know what I mean,
Oh,
like being
absolutely.
providers, but we give permission to also sink into feminine too, because we all have it, right? Like it
Yes.
also gives them permission to sink into that softness as well, and it's such a beautiful thing to witness.
Wow, this is a crazy conversation. You are totally channeling right now, because the conversation I was having with this client is about my husband is a musician and an artist. He's this beautiful,
Mm,
creative, delicious human being, and her partner is the same. And what we were talking about was the fact that these men are very tapped into their feminine energy. If you're a creative, you're tapped into your feminine energy. So he's dancing with his feminine and masculine, and I'm dancing with
mm,
my feminine and masculine. And the truth of, for these men, their wounding is so deep, because men who were these creative types weren't necessarily the best providers, and so they weren't really desired. They weren't the men who were chased
mm.
after. Women who were looking for providership often went for this very toxic masculine kind of energy, because that's a providership kind of energy. It's not truly a providership energy, but that's what it looked like, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the women were chasing after. So these men are also in their own wounding and trying to figure out where to step up with these women who sometimes are quite masculine, especially if you're, a business owner and a CEO of a company. You're in your masculine for sure. And they're in their feminine with their creative, and they're masculine with being this provider and holding the space for the woman. It is such a wild dance. It's this super dynamic, so multi-layered. That's why communication is so important. And the better you know
Mm,
yourself, the truth of who you really are, that as deep as you've gone with yourself is as deep as you can go with partnership and your parents and your children. I'm on the side of, I have a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old. And it's
yeah.
this wild experience of noticing this sacred union in all of your relationships.
Mm. I just, something from what you were sharing too, um, is just such a little aha for me in my own relationship. And I don't think I've ever acknowledged my partner for his, like the way that he's in his feminine. He's a creative too. And I just never acknowledged that.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful part
Oh,
of them. I mean, I only remember
yeah.
this lifetime. Whether or not I've had another lifetime, I have no idea. But let's not go down that rabbit hole. But this is who I chose as my partner when I was 20 years old. I mean, I fell madly in love with this man. It's a great story.
Yeah.
And he the same. And I only know how to love these creative types, and it's so beautiful to be in relationship with these. They get us. They get women who are doing this work. Like, they understand
Yeah.
creating new things and putting out new ideas and being this thought leader. They get it, because they're thought leaders also, but they're in there
Yeah.
both also, and they have their own wounding, and it's deep. It's deep. So while I'm doing my own
Yeah.
work, my husband's doing his work, and we've got to come together and make sure that we're doing our work together.
Yes. Oh, yes. I think that's such a huge piece of it too. It is that piece around like, it's interesting. I used to say once upon a time that relationships are 50-50, and I've kind of like squashed that. That's not true either, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to always be at 50%, right? Like to be in
Right?
my partnership and and to show up every day, like my 100% is going to be different. And so some days there are going to be days where like I give 20% and he's giving 80. So But anyways, I'm trying to think why I came to this. I don't even remember now where I was going with that, but it's
Well, let
just,
me piggyback on that.
yeah.
Because I think it's seasons too, right? Like
Yes.
my husband and I have been through lots of seasons, and there are seasons where, like, okay, daily on the daily, right? You're giving 60, I'm giving 40, I'm giving 100, you're giving nothing, you're having a really bad day. But there are seasons that are like that, and to kind of play a longer game, like that's what it looks like. There are seasons where I've been really in it, and I'm giving 20%, and thank God that man was carrying 80% because we still got to 100 somehow. And there are seasons that the opposite has been true, and it can be hard when you're the one who's carrying it for a little while. You know, you can get really tired and be like, is this guy
100%.
ever going to step up? Like, what in the world? But they do eventually, just like we have the
Yeah.
moments to rest. It's like giving them permission to be at their best and trusting that their best is all they've got and I can give the rest. And then when I'm not in my best season, the same thing's going to happen.
Hmm. And I think there's a piece too, even around, I've seen in just relationships too, is right, is because we feel like we have to, as women, like we feel like we have to do it all, and that's like very much like masculine screaming at us, energy masculine. But we're also not letting them step up either, right? Like there's even that aspect and peace in relationships, and I think it's reminding and allowing ourselves to both stand, to both take up space, to both,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like too.
Yes. And it can be uncomfortable for women to,
Yeah.
like, we want to receive and we want to be in this
Oh,
energy of being gifted and being taken care of and being able to be soft and slow and held, but it also feels so unsafe, right?
oh,
That lineage
100%.
wounding is like, we finally can step up and we can own and we can earn and we need to go out and we need to hustle and we need to gather everything we can. Like, I feel like sometimes the lineage is like, part of my work has been to say to the lineage, okay, I got this. Like, I don't have to gather. I don't have to hoard. I can go slow. It's safe for me to go slow. But our
Yeah.
partners don't always know what to do because sometimes we are in this very masculine energy. We can be
Hmm.
very, very driven because we now can. And then they've got to figure out, like, okay, you're saying you want me to step up, but I can't really fit anywhere because you're taking up all this space. There's no room for me, right? So it's this, it's
Exactly.
easy to say, partner, why aren't you stepping up? I want to be held. I want to be taken care of. But the truth is sometimes it's us that's not creating the space for them to step in. We have to be willing
Mm.
to step back and kind of let them lead at some points in order for them to be in their masculine energy. That was a lesson that I really had to learn. It wasn't easy. It was a lot of navigating that because I thought it was him. And then I realized at least part of it was me because I needed to say, okay, you can take the lead here and I'm going to let you.
Yeah, there's yeah, I think I just what I think about in hearing that too is also just we can be we when we allow the space for us to really look in the mirror and to give ourselves that hard truth, like we can just see the part that we play in things. And I feel like that's just like this piece around just taking radical responsibility for our lives, for everything that we do, for our relationships, like bringing in this energy of radical responsibility and letting go of that victim mindset, because that's right, like that's what comes through when we are, but you're not doing this and you're not doing this, and
Right.
we forget to hold up the mirror and
Right.
look at the part that we're playing in this. And it's not to have come from a place of judgment either, it's just simply to come from a place of being able to, I guess, like in a sense, just be able to get what we actually desire, right? We're asking this of our partners, we're asking this, but sometimes we're not able to hold up that mirror either.
Yeah, we're not able to receive. I mean, think about it. The
Mm-hmm.
energy of receiving is so vulnerable. You have to really
Mm-hmm.
soften. I mean, even just thinking about the way a woman's body is, for us to receive, it's very, very vulnerable. That energy of receiving, whether it's the bath that's drawn for you, or your husband's making dinner for you, or he made the vacation plans and you didn't have to figure it out. You can just receive whatever it is. He went grocery shopping, like the little things. But being able to say, okay, whatever he brings home from the grocery store, I'm going to be so happy that he couldn't find the mangoes and he instead brought apricots and thought they were the same thing, or whatever it is. Like, just I'm receiving and just
Yeah.
practicing that leaning back and receiving, because it's extremely uncomfortable.
1,000%. Oof. So good. This was such an incredible conversation. I feel like we just like spewed so much
So
in
fun.
this.
so
Oh
fun.
my gosh. I'm so, so grateful. I would love for you to also just share too for those that are tuning in and listening and maybe really resonating with anything that you shared and the work that you do. If you want to just share anything that you have going on, and I would absolutely love to leave links and all the things, but if you can just share anything you have going on.
Yeah, so I have this beautiful space called the Silver Lining Circle, and we gather once a month and we do these sacred wish ceremonies. I didn't even tell you about that. That's a whole other story, but I have this beautiful ritual. It's returning women back to their sacred selves, returning women back to their source, their soul through ritual, through
Mm,
ceremony. We connect with the divine feminine energy. We talk deeply about partnership and about relationships and about career and about everything under the sun and self. And every month we gather and we do these beautiful rituals together, this ceremony together. It's just writing on paper and the paper dissolves in water. It's this beautiful thing that I invented and I love it so much.
I love it.
And we have a Telegram group chat. We're right now in a 40-day challenge, just talking about creating space. Exactly what we
Mm,
were saying with the energy of receiving. It can be as simple as just creating space and this idea that we don't have to heal everything. Sure, we can be on a healing journey and we can go deep, but we don't have to go deep all the time. I am so sure that I didn't sign up for a life that was going to be this arduous journey of healing my soul, and day after day I was going to be going deep. And that's not what I came here for. I came here to have a
yep.
blast, and I came here for all of it. And I came here to love and loss and sorrow and celebration. I wanted the whole
Mm.
journey, but I know I came here to have a really good time. And so that's what we do. We have a really good time. We go deep. We have deep conversation. We bring women together. And the truth I can tell you is I literally gather the best women. I think that's my superpower. I just gather the most magnificent, beautiful, like you, these beautiful light
Yeah.
energies who get it, who see the world, who want to go deep. And it's just really, really fun. So find me on Instagram.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I have to share. It's interesting too that you gather monthly too. I feel like as women, the simplest thing that we can do to really connect back to our womanhood
Yes.
is connecting to our cycle.
Yeah.
I have always had such, and I've talked about this before, but I've had such a interesting relationship with my cycle and simply just not knowing at all about my cycle until
Mhm.
like 2 years ago, to be honest. And
Wow.
I just turned 30. It, I just thankfully again because it's the women that we surround ourselves with, and timing is such a beautiful thing and part of it
Of
too.
course.
But yeah, just that simplest little thing of connecting to your cycle and understanding your
Yes.
cycle. I guess
Yes.
that's that little piece is just like I feel like that is one starting point to really connect back to who you are as a woman and just
Yes.
understanding that. Whew, ladies, we've got power in our cycles, okay?
Yes.
The fact that we go through a full birth and death every single month, if you like, we get to do that. We get to do that.
Isn't it
That is
wild?
phenomenal.
I know where that's the part that and that's where all of our co-creative power is. It's all in that womb space,
Yes.
and our wounding is there too. And when we come back to this is what women have always done. This is ancient wisdom. Women have
Yeah.
gathered around a fire. Women have gathered together. We've held each other. We were community. Women were communities. Men were outside of the community. And I love my husband. I want him to be right with me, but women were community. We have to
Yeah.
bring that back and honor the truth that we are not men. We are cyclical
Mm-hmm.
beings, and it's required
Yes.
that we allow ourselves the space to truly be who we are and to be in that feminine frequency and that feminine flow and to run when we want to run and to rest when we want to rest. It's part of our
Mm-hmm.
cycle.
100%. And the other thing that I wanted to, after hearing you as well, is you talked about just like you're here for a good time and healing doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be this energy around you're bawling your eyes out and you're having this like moment where things are crumbling around you. I think in this moment and in this conversation, through touching a little piece around your partnership and seeing my partner in a different way, that
Mm.
actually gave me like a little healing, and I'm actually like really excited. I feel like there's just this like conversation that allows me to step into. And that's a little piece around healing. And I didn't even cry. There was no emotion. It was just like, you know? And we
Exactly.
could just, it gets to be that too.
That's
Like,
it.
that's also the energy around healing that I personally love too, is that it doesn't have to always be where you are, retreating either. Because I
Right.
actually think that we get to live and be in life and be in play and be in all the
Yes.
things, and also have these moments of beautiful transformational healing at the same time.
Absolutely. That's it. It's just, I'm saying something that awakens something in you. That's it. It's the
Exactly.
frequency of voices. It's the frequency of being together. It's our energy being truly connected, that you look at something in that sacred mirror and you go, oh, wait a second. I want to think about this more. I want to lean into this. I want to feel into this more. There's something here for me. That's it.
Mm,
That's how it works.
that's it.
I
That's
love it.
it. Oh, so good. Thank you again so much. This was such a beautiful conversation. And it's so funny. I pulled a card earlier from this womb deck that I have, but from a dear friend of mine. And the card that came through was flow. Just
Well, isn't that
flow.
just perfect?
Right?
I love it. I love it. This is so fun. Thank you so much. What a
Thank you
joy.
as well. Thank you for listening. Make sure to leave a review and continue the conversation with me over on social media. And we'll see you in the next episode.